You read the title correctly. I had $18,555.47 of income flowing into my bank account in 1 month. This is after taxes. But I also had $49,781.08 flowing out. Am I going flat broke? Will I be bankrupt soon? Let's talk about it. Another month, another dollar or two, or thousands. Today we will go over the income I earned from my various sources during this particular month, as well as everything I spend money on this month too. So let's get started. So this video will entail weeks 14 to 17. Weeks overlap, obviously. You have a new month that starts in the middle of the week, more often than not, but it just gets too confusing to split up the revenue and expenses. And at the end of the year, we will entail all 52 weeks anyway. So starting off with week 14, it was a pay fortnight for my office gig, thankfully. And in my prior video in this series, I mentioned why I'm now getting paid more despite no pay raise. Basically, I changed some tax strategy related to my student debt. Also, I got paid for my second job at the supermarket too. I got paid a bit more than usual because on a Saturday early in the month, I covered a manager on a Saturday, so I got paid at a slightly higher rate. At least I think that's what happened. Also, I did an earlier shift on a Sunday, which means my first hour was paid at a 100% penalty rate, not a 50% penalty rate. I worked 8 till 5 that day. Any hours worked before 9 a.m. on a Sunday, I paid out at a 100% penalty rate. Any hours after 9 a.m., I paid out at a 50% penalty rate. And that was all the income earned for this week. No dividends, no YouTube payment, no other sources of income, just my rat race and wagey job incomes. So how about my expenses for this week? Let's see what my total was. Oh, yikes. What the fuck? $28,272.44 spent this week? On what? Well, $485 was on fuel. Now, it was for a gift card on fuel. There was a certain sale that was going on in my rewards app for my supermarket job, 3% off certain gift cards, including fuel. So I bought this, $500 worth of fuel for only $485. I would have bought way more if I knew these sales were rare, but I thought they were a bit more common than that and I just never realized. But it's a month later and still that sale doesn't exist at the moment. But for now, we've basically prepaid for fuel, but let's not use accrual accounting here. Let's just look at it purely from a cash flow perspective. I spent $485 for the purposes of fuel for this week. I also spent $93.47 on groceries. Now, groceries fall under the same sort of category as what I just mentioned. I bought gift cards on the cheap. I talked about this in a prior video, but there is a method where I and you can save 4% off gift cards, which includes gift cards that pay for groceries, which means you and I can get 4% off your groceries. Go suss that video for that info. There's a timestamp in the video too that leads you to the section on how you can save 4% off your groceries, so there's no need to watch the entire thing, but I'd appreciate it if you did. But if I've prepaid gift cards for my groceries, then why do I have a grocery expense? Well, I bought a bunch of razors for shaving on eBay. Usually I buy my razors from Woolies, but there's a pretty expensive markup on them, so instead I decided to shop around online for cheaper razors for the brand that I use. Not going to mention the brand unless they sponsor me, and no, it's not Manscaped. Lo and behold, found heaps for like less than half the price that Woolies offers. So there's a nice savings hack for you. If your grocery costs are super high, try and find another source for that product. Obviously, it's generally more convenient to buy all your fruits, veggies, meats and whatnot, especially in my area. There's no other butchers or fruit shops around. But yeah, the point is, shop around. Next cost, parking, $1.80. Parking for my laser hair removal appointment. I had one of those early in the month, and these sessions are prepaid for ages ago. I always pay for them when they have certain sales, but since it's in the city, and I need to park close or I'll just not make my appointment on time, it costs me about $1.80 to park in the city, if I get there after 5 p.m. If I get there and park before 5 p.m., parking is like $3.60. I don't know, it's just the way it works. So I try and get there at like 5:01 or something, enough time to not miss my appointment, but not too early where I got to fork out another $1.80 unnecessarily. Yeah, I make like 127K a year, but I remember the days where I was excited that I found two $2 coins in a vending machine that someone left behind once. I was like 6 at the time. And ever since then, I'd always go and check vending machines for any change that someone's left. Point is, I know what it's like to be excited over small bits of money. If there's a cost I can avoid easily, I'll always take that option. Next cost, $135.66 on laser hair removal. But wait, you just said that you prepaid for this. Yes, I did. I prepaid for the session that I just had, but now I'm prepaying for more future sessions, since they were having yet another sale at that time. Also spent $20.61 on my gym membership this week. Yay! I spent $129.80 on gifts. Gifts? What for? Well, my sister texted me saying that Mum wanted some specific sweater for Mother's Day. Really don't know why she wanted this 600-ish jumper. It's literally beyond me, but it's fine. It's her gift, so we all chipped in. So this was my portion of this. And here it is. This is why the costs for this month were so enormous. $27,406.10 spent on my house. So my base stage for my house was complete. So I owed a payment to my home builder. Now, thankfully, this wasn't part of my bank loan because the more money I borrow from them, the more I got to pay them back. But obviously, it took a big chunk out of my bank funds in the meantime. So without this real estate related payment, I spent $866.34 in this week. So a big spend week even without my mortgage or house. But a lot of that stuff was prepayments, such as buying more than a year's worth of razors, more than a month's worth of fuel, and 3 laser hair removal sessions for my neck. No Reddit neck beards here. In week 15, aka week 2 of this month, I earned nothing from the office gig since it's not a fortnight cycle where I get paid, but I did get $553.64 from the wagey job. It's a bit more than my standard $549.95 because I clocked on early one Sunday, lol. Payroll always pays us out. Nice bit of $3 or $4, YOLO. So that covers my parking for like 2 laser hair removal sessions. Nice. I also got $3.30 from a dividend from my second job. I don't know how it officially works, but I have shares in like 2 companies. This was my share from the company that isn't the one I work for. I don't know, whatever. Not going to complain about 1.5 parking sessions worth of money. And I also received $203.18 from other sources. What is this? Well, a while ago I got scammed out of money via Fiverr when I was starting my little consulting side hustle. That still needs a lot of work. So naturally, being a newbie to the platform, I have no clue how it works. I did mention this in my earned and spent sort of series, in a separate video obviously, but the bank had come back and denied my request for a refund initially. So I snapped back. I mentioned how I've been with them for literally more than a decade, how my bank loan is with them, how they made more money off me via interest in the last month versus what this amount is, etc. Basically, I kinda acted like a Karen, and it worked. So I got this money back. I did learn my lesson, but hey, I walked away with my money back. Now, this was kind of my get out of jail free card moment. I've never had a bank refund / request / payment dispute from this bank before. So this was my, I suppose, one free shot. If you were in this kind of situation, aka been with this one bank for years and years, have a home loan with them, never done this before, there could be a way you could pull this off with a more expensive purchase you regret. But that's not something I'd suggest. Just something interesting to think about, and I'm just thinking out loud. So in this week, earned $759.95 in total. As for the expenses in week 15, aka week 2, spent $1,430.61. Okay, less than last week for sure, but that's still pretty damn high for me. So what did this entail? Well, no fuel or groceries because those costs were covered by gift cards. Scrolling through. Oh, so I paid $20.61 for my usual gym membership, and then $1,410 on stock investments. Well, this was actually for sports gambling. Well, $60 was a small trickle into VHY, since that stock was really sort of oversold during the whole sort of market sell-off, goodbye the dip opportunity. So besides that, the rest was for betting websites. This was when I started trickling money into gambling on the recent Australian election. When I first made this budget/Excel sheet, I had no intention of ever putting money into betting platforms. I need to save as much money as possible for my home, but as I mentioned in my Aussie politics vids, I saw the writing on the wall. I saw a great investment opportunity, so I trickled money in. So without this, I literally only spent $20.61 this week, which was on my gym membership, since fuel and groceries were already paid for weeks ago via gift cards. Week 16, a good week of earnings, earned $2,444.92 from Office Gig this week since it was a pay fortnight, $549.95 as per usual weekend wagey job, and a whopping $10,825 from other sources. Did my consulting side hustle finally generate income? Did I finally get a sponsor for my YouTube channel? Was there insane AdSense this month? The answer to all of that is no, absolutely not. This amount was split up. 10 grand of this was my first homeowners grant from my state government. They're just throwing money at people who are buying/building their first home. It's definitely good, but if they weren't so bad at managing the economy, the houses wouldn't be so expensive in the first place, meaning I wouldn't need a $10,000 grant. Even though I didn't really need it this time anyway, but obviously I'm going to take it. All that these grants/incentives do is increase demand, which increases prices. But whatever, point is I got paid an extra 10 grand from the government. Now this obviously went straight to my home builder, but it's still 10 grand that I received nonetheless. And the remaining $825 was for a partial refund of a laptop data recovery that failed. So I mentioned in another video of how I spent $2,076 on getting old data recovered from an old university laptop. Well, they failed at it, and as per their policies and standards, I'm owed a partial refund, which is nice, but that still meant I spent $1,251 on basically nothing. Nice. Yeah, worth a shot, I guess. They did tell me it was recoverable after some diagnosis, so I paid up the $2,076, only for them to come back weeks later saying that their attempts failed. Oh well, an expensive lesson. Get better at knowing how IT works, and then maybe I won't need my data recovered. So that was a solid $13,819.87 I earned this week. Now, as for expenses, spent $17,330.57. Sheesh, another big spend. On what now? Well, my usual $20.61 on gym membership, and then we have $1,405 on stock investments, aka sports/election gambling. This was, again, me trickling more money into my election bet on the recent Aussie election. And then here we go again, another payment to the home builder. But damn, they're getting my home built fast. This was the $10,000 first homeowners grant from the government, $5,900.96 from my own bank account, and a $4 transfer fee. For some reason, the banks had to charge me $4 for moving money when it costs me $0 to do the same thing. Now, as for the last week of this month, what do we have? Earned $0 from the office, not a pay week from there. Earned $847.70 from the supermarket wagey job. Reason this is more is because this was the Easter weekend pay, so all the hours had a 125% penalty applied, versus the usual 25% for a Saturday and 50% for a Sunday. So all those hours were paid out at around $58 an hour. Nice. The Saturday shift was hectic, but the Sunday shift was easy as fuck. Perfectly balanced as all things should be. I also got $47.58 from dividends from the supermarket, the actual company this time, not the spin-off. Now, they've really cut their dividend. Last time I got paid a dividend, they paid them out at 97 cents per share. This time they're only paying out at 39 cents per share. Bruh. This will tie into a future video, no doubt, but this is why you can't rely on dividends as an income stream. Despite the fact they're one of the most stable sources of income, sometimes a company, even a giant fucking supermarket, can literally cut the dividend payment in half from one payout to another. It's not like this was over a few years. This was literally from last payment to now. But in the meantime, got an extra $47.58 in my bank, which is nice. That pays for like one social event or something. Thanks. And then I also received $61 in other income. Basically, withdrew money I had on some sports bet I had. It was on the Thunder in Game 3 in the first round of the 2025 playoffs. You know, the one where they were down by like 25 at the half. Well, I'll mention this again shortly. So, the last week of the month spent $2,747.46. On what? Spent $161.45 on fuel. Now, this was an old fuel account that I no longer use. Reason being, I found a few hacks that gets me cheaper petrol elsewhere, such as these gift card thingos. So this was paying off that old account that I no longer use. Spent $20.61 on my weekly gym membership. Spent $108.74 on my private health insurance. I only have this to cut taxes, really. It does get me free dental, which is nice, but it still works out to be more expensive than just paying for my old dentist. I talked about this crap in some other video. Spent $6.66 on YouTube Premium. I used a VPN to reroute to Romania, since that's one of the only remaining countries that allows you to do this. I know Argentina, India, South Africa, Turkey, and the Philippines blocks you from trying this. There could be other cheaper countries, but I couldn't find any. But this is still cheaper than paying the, $10 something or other in Australia. I get this cheaper than usual since YouTube/Google considers my CPA membership as a student membership, despite the fact that I'm done with my studies, but shh, don't tell them that. And lastly, spent $2,450 on various injections into betting platforms for the election, as well as $50 for the OKC Thunder before Game 3, because I thought/knew that this was free money. However, in typical fucking NBA fashion, whenever I bet on a team, they get clobbered, or they lose at the buzzer. So in my rage of this absolute bullshit, I put $400 on Memphis live at like, $1.20 odds. So I would have made back what I thought I was going to lose on the Thunder. Well, choker's going to choke. The Memphis Grizzlies choked it, and I lost this $400 bet. But I made like $11 profit from the original OKC bet. Shake my head. That's called chasing your losses and rage betting. I used to be really bad at that back in the day. I remember I had a huge losing streak of doing that. And although yes, I don't do it anymore, besides this, because it's so fucking typical that a clear favorite gets walloped during the game, you shouldn't chase your losses/rage bet. So it's my fault for gambling, obviously, but isn't it just typical NBA? I'm never betting on the NBA again, by the way, too many variables, but thankfully most of this betting money went into an Aussie election anyway, and not Memphis when they were up 25 at the half. So that's it. That's all in this month. I earned $18,555.47, and I spent $49,781.08. How did I spend so much more money than I earned? Well, it's called using your existing savings, but you'll notice a lot of this money went into my home builder/real estate purchase and election gambles. Well, if you exclude any investments, I only spent $1,205.02 this month. Not bad at all, especially since a decent chunk of that was spent on prepaid stuff, so I won't need to buy those again later on. So, eventful month in the money stat? Well, it was an eventful month in all my stats really, but as you can see, I keep a very close eye on where my money is spent. No surprise purchases here. They say it's not how much you make, it's how much you save. No, it's both. This entire money strategy doesn't work if I'm only making $100 a week, especially since there's no house I could ever buy making $100 a week. But you do need to watch where it's all spent. Tricks and tidbits like paying for private healthcare to avoid a more expensive tax bill, buying raises from other sources other than the big supermarket, buying discounted gift cards, etc. All these things add up, and the money you save on those areas allow you to then splurge on the more important expenses like social activities without having to feel guilty or without having to make up for that spending later. So how did your month go in terms of income and expenses? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. That is all.